And actually, I was impressed. I was so overwhelmed with God's favor over the last 3 weeks that I've been awake at night, 3 hours at a time, flooded with God's blessing, unable to go to sleep. And it's just probably one of the best awake times that I've ever experienced in my life. And so I just thought, what I need to do is bring a message to the flock on God's favor. And today we're going to talk about how to continue to experience God's favor. So it's not a shot in the dark. It's not a one-time thing. But falling under God's favor as a way of life is what we're going to look at. Some of the things that have happened in the last 3 weeks were truly miraculous. Like, we weren't looking for the new place that we're going to move into next Sunday. Nobody called anybody. Nobody did anything. Somebody called Larry, or, sent him an email, a friend of his from Corona, who was looking for a building in the, San Bernardino and Corona area, and he happened to see on Craigslist that there was a church for lease in Wildemar, and he sent it to Larry, and Larry sent it to me, and I go, really? I checked the address, and I figured out where it was, and so I called Larry and said, yeah, call him within 30 seconds when we get off the phone. We need to jump on this. And so it came to us, and then when we called and checked in about it, there was another church that had already, gotten in the process of leasing it, and I told Larry, well, let's go through the process anyway, because there's a possibility they could fall out. They fell out. That was all part of God's plan. And we fell in. And it went on from there. This is a 5,000 square foot facility, and we're going to be sharing it with a Spanish church, which we have wanted to do for years. And so they're paying for half the facility. So God knew that, and it works perfect for us. So the provision is incredible. It's also the only place for lease that a church could go to in Wildemar. And it happened to be a church building already, so we don't have to build it out. It goes on, and then in the 2 weeks process, when we finally were getting closer to signing the lease, we began to talk about what needed to be done to the place before we moved in. And so, half of the facility, there's a sanctuary, and then there's the rooms and the hallways and stuff needed to be recarpeted because they had a flood about a year ago, and some of the carpet was ruined. And there's another huge Sunday school room that used to be 2 Sunday school rooms, and they took the wall out. Where the wall was, there was raw concrete, and just some things. So we talked to them, and God gave us favor, and they redid the entire floor for us. And then they painted the entire place for us. And it looks beautiful. It comes with a kitchen, ladies. It comes with a stove and a microwave and a sink and shelves and so many things that we need. I don't even know where to begin. But as we finished up negotiating the contract this week, it was going to be $5,000 a month, which was about $700 more a month than we pay now, which we were good with. We just figured that people had a vision enough that we could do that. But the final contract ended up being $4,000 a month. So as we move in, it's going to be cheaper than it is here by about $500 a month. So God's provision goes on and on. It was interesting. When I was over there a week ago, this is one of the sweetest parts. The only thing that we were concerned about is Sunday school rooms. We didn't have enough. And we just thought, it's a good enough thing to move in here that we'll have to deal with that, and we're just going to have to deal with it. So last Saturday when we were over there, there's a Christian school right next door. It's about 20 feet from our front door. And the owner and director of the school, Brenda, was there, and she goes, "Hey," she goes, "are you guys part of the new church that's moving in?" And I go, yeah, I'm Pastor Steve, and we're Calvary Chapel, Bear Creek. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, I'm so happy. I didn't know who was moving in, and I can't believe it's a Calvary, because, you know, she went to the Calvary Chapel Bible College. And she goes, listen, I don't know if you're going to need any Sunday school rooms, but you can use our whole school for free. It was God's provision. So we have all the Sunday school rooms that we need. And then that gave more provision, because there's a huge Sunday school room in the church building, and that is going to Derek in the youth group. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. It's absolutely huge. It has everything that they're going to need. And God is just so incredibly wonderful. Last Saturday when we were over there, I was talking to the worship team from the Spanish church, and the bass player was coming in. And no, I'm sorry, he was bringing the bass guitar, but he was an associate pastor, really nice guy. And he goes, so I introduced myself to him. He goes, so how are you doing? And I go, oh my gosh, what a loaded question. I go, I'm so covered with God's favor. The joy of the Lord is so overwhelming to me that I can't sleep at night. I'm up 3 hours a night, just blessings swirling in my head, and I can't sleep. It's so heavy. And he goes, oh, wow. He goes, I've been going through the worst trials I can imagine. He goes, would you pray for me? He goes, I need some of God's favor. And I go, yeah. So I just laid hands on him and prayed for him. And when I got through, he's just lit up. And it was just such a blessing to pass on the joy of the Lord. So that's who we're going to be moving in with. Just some really sweet people. You know, it's interesting, because we need a definition for what the favor of the Lord is, because it's a term that's kind of brandished around. It could mean a lot of things. So the best definition of the word favor, as it's used in the Bible, would be, now listen to this, demonstrated delight. We're thinking about God, what he thinks about us. Demonstrated delight. It can be described as like tangible evidence of the approval of God. That's what it is. That's exactly what's been happening to us for 3 weeks straight. The tangible evidence of God's approval. And if you think about it, when we favor somebody, you know, like some of us have a favorite child. We never admit it. But I mean, Jesus had a favorite apostle. It was John. And you think about that, it's somebody that you want to be with. You know, you mix chemistry. And we delight in them, and we connect with them in a way that we don't connect with everyone. Am I right? Well, we got one amen. Is it with you guys? I mean, don't tell me you don't have any favorites. I know you do. Because that's the way life is. And it's interesting, we usually favor people that favor us. And the same way with God, he shows favor to the ones that delight in, connect with, and give him honor. So that's what we're talking about. You go to the scripture. Isaiah 66:2 says, these are the ones I look on with favor. Those who are humble and contrite in spirit, and who tremble at my word. Isn't that heavy? That's a definition that not very many people know when you think about God's favor. 2 Chronicles 16:9 says, for the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of them whose heart is perfect towards them. So to be perfect towards God, I don't want that to sound like an impossibility to you. Because when you say perfect, you usually put a wall up, because you know you're not. But to be perfect towards him means that we seek his favor more than we seek anyone else, even ourselves. We seek his favor more than we seek ourselves. So the question we want to ask this morning is, how do I receive God's favor? And more importantly, how do I stay in God's favor? Because that is going to be a life changer. And the first thing we're going to look at when it comes to receiving God's favor is it comes from character qualities. Our character brings on God's favor. Character qualities are those things that are inside of us that are molded by God to be like Him. Now, these aren't things that are driven by outward behavior. So you might be doing a lot of good things and not be connecting here on the inside. So they're not driven by outward behavior, but they truly who we are on the inside, and it's where we find that's where our motivations are coming from. And Jesus was always looking for these kinds of people. You can read about it on the Sermon on the Mount. Most people are familiar with Jesus' words on the Sermon on the Mount, but he's trying to get inside of people, not the exterior behavior. He says, you've heard it said, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I tell you, if you even lust after a woman in your mind, you've already committed adultery. You've heard it said, thou shalt not kill. But I tell you, if you hate your brother, you've already killed him. What he's trying to get at, he goes, I want to get inside of you where you tick, not necessarily where your outward behavior is. So what God's looking for when He favors us is our inward motivation. And it's interesting, David writes in Psalm 5:11, he says, but let all those who take refuge in you be glad. Let them ever sing for joy, and may you shelter them, that those who love your name may exalt in you. For it is you who bless the righteous man, O Lord, and you surround him with favor, with a shield. So when we have the right motivations of wanting to surrender our lives to Jesus, and we go to Him for protection, it says that He favors us. And you got to ask yourself, well, who are the righteous that they're talking about here? The righteous are those who have been saved by faith. Because the Bible says that we don't have any righteousness of our own. All our righteousness is just like filthy rags. So our righteousness comes from the cross. It's what He did at the cross that makes us righteous. So who's going to get this stuff? The people that go to the cross. This is not about doing it. This is about being it. It's in the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Bible tells us that we receive God's righteousness by faith. And secondly, it says that God will protect us like a shield. So we got to ask ourselves this morning, protect us from what? We got to get real here. We can't get real generic with terms, or it's not really going to mean anything to us. He's talking about protecting us from the attack of Satan, protecting us from the deception of Satan, the bad advice of the world, and sometimes protecting us from physical danger. I want to just share with you something that happened 2 years ago. There was a group of men from here that went to the men's conference at the Anaheim Convention Center, and on our way home we were on the 91 freeway, and it was pretty packed, but it was packed doing about 85 miles an hour. So, sometimes the 91 is like that, very rarely, but this Saturday it was. And cars were really close together. And I was in the lane right next to the toll lane. And so I was feeling pretty safe, doing about 75 or 80 or so. And all of a sudden, this guy pulls out of the toll lane right into my lane without stepping on his brake one iota, doing 80 miles an hour, just right in front of me. And I was in my pickup. I got 4 guys in the car besides me, and I jammed my steering wheel all the way to the right, and I knew I was going to hit him anyway. And my truck turned sideways, and I was just coming to hit him, and the truck slid, and we missed him by about 3 inches as we slid and moved to the right. And then when we were in that right lane, sliding and moving, there was 4 or 5 bikers on Harleys that all just, they weren't slipping and sliding, but they were going in every direction. And it should have been a multi-car pileup. But every single one of us, and it all happened in 5 seconds, but every single one of us in the car said, "Did you see that?" We couldn't believe we weren't in an accident. And we knew there was an angelic host that helped me turn my wheel, and that the car slid at the perfect exact pace to miss that car by an inch and slide into the other lane where those bikes were who moved their Harleys just in time. And as we went farther down the freeway, I rolled down my window on the right and got caught up with the guys on the Harleys, and I said, "Hey, that guy tried to kill me." And they said, "We know," because he almost killed us. And it was literally God's favor physically that kept us all from dying. Because really, I'm telling you, everybody in the car knew we should have died that day. But it wasn't our time. We had God's favor, and he was all over us. Isaiah 66, this is God speaking through the prophet. It says, "For all those things my hand has made, and all those things exist, says the Lord. But on this one will I look," or in other words, on this one will I show my favor, "on him who is humble and of a contrite spirit, and who trembles at my word." This is what's necessary to find God's favor. And what takes years to learn is God's not so interested in the most popular people in the church. Did you know that? Wow. He's not. You could be like really famous, man. And, be on 10 radio shows and 5 TV shows, and God's going, What's he looking for? He's looking for somebody that'll be humble of heart. Somebody who's willing to admit their fault. In other words, somebody who's living a truly repentant lifestyle. I think what we're talking about is somebody who's in touch with their own depravity. Now, sometimes we have a real mistaken identity of who the mature Christians are in the church, because we think the mature Christians in the church are the ones that are the most famous. And it's not true. The mature Christians in the church are the ones who are in touch with their depravity. They understand that they have a sinful heart. They understand that they're vulnerable to their sin nature. Now that's real maturity. See, because that person's not going to fall headlong. But the person who may be famous and maybe think he has it all together is a person who's ripe to take a big fall. Someone who fears the Lord through his word. Now this is somebody that puts the word of God above their feelings. May God give us more mature Christians that'll do that. Wouldn't this place be wonderful? I'm talking about the valley that we live in. If people put the word of God in front of their feelings, because I'm telling you, your feelings are pretty much on a roller coaster. And did you guys know that you can't tell your feelings what to do? For example, if next week comes and you just have yourself a good depression, how many people here have ever been depressed before? Oh, thank God, I'm in good company, man. So glad to hear that. You know, when you're depressed, you can't tell your feelings what to do. Amen? Well, I really wished we could, don't you? We will in heaven, but here it's not going to happen. It's not about whether you're depressed or not. Come on, Jesus was depressed in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's like people don't even know what clinical depression is. Clinical depression isn't feeling blue. Clinical depression is so stressed out you can't sleep at night. And that it's a lack of sleepiness that is a diagnosis for clinical depression. And you may not be able to tell your feelings what to do, but you can make right decisions when you're depressed anyway. And that's really what we're talking about here. Somebody that is in touch with their own depravity, and I believe once we get in touch with how sinful we really are and our own depravity, then all of a sudden we're like hands up for God's grace. Amen? Like, oh yes, Lord, you know I need it. I'm so thankful. You walk around with a thankful heart instead of an arrogant heart, and that brings on God's favor. That's really what this verse is talking about. Somebody who has the fear of the Lord through his word, and somebody who's willing to follow the word even if it's unpopular. Because you may have some friends that are diametrically opposed to God's word. And there may come a time where God will bring you out to this person And you're going to have to stand up for what you believe in. You know, you don't have to condemn somebody, but what you do have to do is tell them what you really believe. And then that becomes a powerful witness. Living in God's righteousness through grace is appealing to God. It's like it brings on His favor. Psalm 84:11 says, for the Lord God is a sun and a shield. And some of the benefits of God being our S-U-N, sun, you know, the sun in the sky, is that we live in a dark world. And when you're filled with the Holy Spirit, you have that light in you, and people do see it. And it's interesting, the Bible says that, fear especially affects our society now. All you have to do is watch the 5 o'clock news, and you can see that the world is going to hell in the handbasket. Whether it's ISIS cutting off Christians' heads, or Putin taking over some more territory near Russia, or, Iran ready to make the atomic bomb. There's a lot of stress out in the world that everybody's feeling. And God sheds light on us in a dark world, and He says that we cast fear from the darkness. We know that Satan is in charge of the dark, and especially in the end times that we live in, he's put fear in men's heart. You see, what Satan does is he tries to get every one of us to run our lives by fear. Because if we do, we're making wrong decisions all the time. We're just making decisions out of fear. And that's what he wants. And the Bible tells us that in the end times that men will be dying of fear through heart attacks. And as we get closer to the day of the rapture or the return of Christ for His church, heart problems have increased. I mean, medically speaking, there's more heart attacks happening now than have happened over a 50-year period. And what's really interesting, it used to be mostly men, especially executives and along those lines. But you know what's happened, you guys? In the past 30 years, since the women have entered the workforce, and believe me, I am not criticizing women for being in the workforce. My wife has been in the workforce for, many more years than that. We won't tell them how many, honey. You've been working for a long time. But you know what's happened because of that, you guys? Now women's heart attacks have raised up statistically pretty much to the level of men. Wow. You can really see how Satan puts a grip on the world through fear. But the Bible tells us that perfect love casts out fear. Psalm 84:11 says, the Lord will give grace and glory. This is really interesting because God wants to bless men and women that'll step out on faith. And He's famous for giving us what we don't deserve, which is a definition of God's grace. And He'll also let us experience His glory in worship and the Word. Again, David writes, Psalm 28:7 says, the Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusted in Him, and I'm helped. Therefore, my heart greatly rejoices. Instead of having stress to a heart attack level, his heart is rejoicing because he's experiencing God's favor. And he says, and with song I will praise Him. Going on in verse 11, it says, no good thing will He withhold from those who walk uprightly. Now, for everybody that's been going through trials recently, and maybe this morning, and tribulations, we need to remember that the trials that we're going through are brought on from a fallen world. We live in a place that's fallen. So it's brought on by the world, it's brought on by us and our own flesh, and it's brought on by Satan himself. So we live in a fallen world, and God even uses these hard situations to bring us closer to Him. Now this is interesting. I believe that's why James tells us to consider it all joy when we are encountering various trials. And it was Jesus who reassured us that when we come to Him in the middle of a trial and we ask Him for a loaf of bread, He's not going to give us a stone, nor is He going to give us a scorpion or a snake. Or in other words, what He was, scorpions or snakes represent satanic world. So when we come to God and we ask Him for something, He's not going to give us something satanic. That's what the Bible's saying. We're going to be under His favor. So how do I receive God's favor and stay in it? It's our character qualities that bring us into God's favor. And also, it's by understanding what our responsibility is. See, we have a responsibility too in order to enter into God's favor. But I'm telling you, this favor stuff is so exciting that I think when we take a look at this in the Word of God right now, you will be very willing to do your part. So to receive the blessing of God's favor, there's actually some things that the Bible says we're responsible for. So first, we need to figure out what we're not supposed to do. First, we got to figure out what not to do in order to get this favor. Jesus tells us, Matthew 6:31, He says, therefore, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? What shall we drink? What shall we wear? For after all these things Gentiles seek, or we might say today, non-believers seek this. He says, for your heavenly Father, He knows that you need all these things. And He's all about you. You got to realize that. He loves you. He said that He's counted every single hair on your head. He's watching you this week, not to wait till you stumble. He's watching you to help you when you do stumble, to give you a hand up. That's who He is. This kind of worry that Jesus was talking about here, it can sneak up on you when you don't expect it. I'm telling you, it happened to me this week. We needed to sign the documents to lease this new church. And, we didn't get for sure how much it was going to be yet. And I'm going, what are these people doing, man? I called Larry. I go, hey, Larry, these people are dragging their feet, man. This doesn't sound like a normal leasing place to me. Normal leasing companies want to sign the dot, get it done, and there's no reason why these people should be dragging their feet. So, I think it was in the evening. I go, tomorrow, you got to call them and close the deal, man. And Larry's going, well, he goes, I really don't think we have anything to worry about. And I go, well, I'm not worried, man. I'm just concerned. And Larry laughed. He laughed just now again, man. Dude, I'm telling you, I called Larry the next day and apologized. I go, man, I'm really sorry. My worry, it creeped up on me. You know what I mean, though? It can creep up on you and just bite you. And, for a while there, I thought I was going to have to help God out. But God knew better. It's pretty amazing. So, what we're talking about here is overcoming your feelings. Again, I couldn't tell my feelings what to do. Here's what I'm thinking, you guys. Here's my worst nightmare. I get everybody in the whole church psyched up as your pastor. We're making this move. Oh, Pastor Steve, I can hardly wait. And then I come in this morning and go, well, I'm really sorry, you guys. But it really didn't work out after all, and we're going to be here 30 more years. I have these horrible nightmares in my mind, and you just realize that this isn't about you. It's not about me. It's just about letting God be Himself. And He really will take care of everything. So no matter what you're going through this morning, my dear brother Larry will share with you, God's already taken care of it. So we don't have to worry about it. We can overcome our feelings You might be sitting there this morning and thinking, well, how do I do that? You know what, you guys? It's easier to overcome your feelings in a trial. It's easier than you think. It's by learning to love God and trusting for His favor no matter what we're looking at. The Bible says, we said before, that perfect love casts out fear. Romans 8:28, we've all memorized it. For we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. And you know what? Satan can't touch you if you hold on to God's Word. Remember, it was one of the things, it was a sign of holding on to God's favor, is grabbing a hold of His Word. No wonder in Matthew 6:33, Jesus said, but just seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Therefore, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. And sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Look, you're being tortured enough today for the next 24 hours. Don't drag it out for 3 months. One day is enough, amen? That's really what the Lord's just trying to show us, that He is trustworthy. And so we understand, in order to experience God's favor, we need to let go of worry on our part. And another responsibility that we have in order to experience God's favor is to work hard. Isn't that a weird one? Have you ever heard that preached before? I don't think I have. You experience God's favor by working hard. This American work ethic that we're always talking about, it's not American, it's biblical. And it comes right here from Psalm 90, and it's an awesome thing. This really involves our calling to be a light in the world, and God has called all of us to be a light, because this place is dark. And it's interesting because this calling is found in Genesis when man fell and he was cursed. That's where the calling happens. And he was told that now he was going to have to work from the sweat of his brow. In other words, what God was saying, from now on, because you rebelled, work's not going to be easy. God made the garden an awesome place. And man didn't have to mess with it much. He just kind of watered it and everything was good. But when he fell, weeds came. So many things happened, probably ground fungus, dry spots, and it's only going to take work from then on to grow food in order to eat and live. And I don't care what part of the work world you're in, you work by the sweat of your brow. Now, if you're a laborer out there, maybe you're a carpenter in the summertime, and it could be in the lower desert where it's 120, man, you can feel that sweat on your brow. But you might be a white-collared businessman and even a top executive in any corporation where you're in an air-conditioned office, and yet you're under so much heat of stress, you feel like you're in 150 degrees, and you hope you make it home without a heart attack. All of us are working by the sweat of our brow. So when God confirms the work of our hands with His favor, what He does, listen to this closely, please don't miss this. He supplies godly wisdom in the workplace, and it's real. He'll give you creative juices that nobody else will think of. He'll give you the wisdom of Solomon. And I can tell you this is true, and I've experienced it myself. I remember when I was working in the pharmaceutical industry as a sales rep, I had the Inland Empire for a territory, and there's a lot of pharmaceutical sales reps out there, and we're all calling on doctors' offices, and we're all going to the same offices, vying for attention of each doctor, and they really don't have much time for drug reps at all. If you get a minute and a half, you're doing great. So I prayed, and I prayed for God's favor. I honestly did. I go, Lord, what can I do to spend some time with this doctor in his office? Because he's a very busy man. And so as I was praying about that for days, the Lord gave me a vision. I don't mean a visual one, but something that came to my mind. And he goes, what I want you to do is go buy a cappuccino machine from Starbucks and get ready to go to the major players, the doctors that you call on, and talk to the office staff, the office manager, and say, hey, how would you guys like it if I came in and made personal chocolate lattes for everybody on Wednesday morning and bring in some fresh bagels? And they go, yeah, that sounds awesome. So that's what I started doing. I was really cheap. You know, the drug companies out there are just spending millions. I mean, to give you an example, our company gave us about $30,000 a year for entertainment. We were a small company, but the other larger companies were like $80,000. So, you know, big bucks to do heavy-duty stuff. But, you know, that cappuccino machine was only $200, and the coffee was, I don't know, $10 or something. And I went in, and I was spending 3 hours in my doctor's offices, walking around, getting to know all the office staff, getting their exact order for the cappuccino and the kind of fresh bagel that they wanted. And this was so cool. It was so God's favor. And the doctor was happy with me running around his office, you know, keeping his staff happy. And other drug reps would come to the waiting room, and they would see me in there. And at one point, there was 3 of them waiting in there. And, you know, I was at the desk delivering the next latte to one of the office staff. And I looked in, and I know these guys, you know. And I looked behind the desk and I go, you know, you guys, the doctor's going to be busy for about 3 more hours. It's so fun to say. I couldn't believe it. So for $200, the Lord gave me the wisdom to outdo reps that had 4 times as much money as I did. It was just absolutely amazing. We did other things. You know, God will give you creative juices. The Holy Spirit is all about that. I mean, His favor, if we'll just walk with Him and pray about these things at work, He's going to blow you away. One of the things I used to do too is I used to take doctors out on, you know, some major fishing trips in San Diego, fishing for tuna and yellowtail. And again, I would pray about before I went. I go, you know, normally what I would do is, you know, the boat holds about 48 people, and I'd have about 15 people in the boat chartered. So it's really going to be comfortable and a good time. And normally, you know, you leave at about 10 o'clock at night and you go way out to sea, and I'd give a lecture in the galley on our drugs on the way out. Well, I'd been calling on these doctors for like 12 years, and they've heard more about my drugs than I have. You know, they know all about them. And, you know, what I really want is just for them to use it on their patients that really need it, and everything is fine. And they have already heard from me before. So we had the lecture in the galley about 9 o'clock that night, going out to sea, and I go, you know, I have been telling you guys about our asthma and allergy drugs for 12 years, and I've just decided that, you know, we don't need a lecture tonight, so we're just going to go to bed a little bit early, and if you guys just write prescriptions of my drug, it's all good. I got a standing ovation. Didn't have to say a word about my product, and they wrote my product till the cows come home. It was just absolutely amazing, but I prayed about it. And who would ever think not talking about your drug would sell your drug? That just goes against what marketing thinks. And it was so funny because I had a manager that really was a control freak, and she really wanted to control me. So, you know, I had to ride with her about twice a year where, you know, we get together and she goes out in the field and talks to doctors with me. And she wanted this canned approach from marketing. And I'm just going, this is going to make my doctors upset. What am I going to do with this lady? So I went to all my doctors before she rode with me that day, and I go, look, I'm going to have my boss with me, so would you just put up with me for that day? We're going to have to run through this marketing stuff and make it sound right. You know, and they go, bring her in, Steve, we'll do it. So I did it, you know, and she rode with me for about a half a day, and I did my spiel, and then at the end of the day, she goes, wow, Steve, she goes, that was fabulous. Just going, oh, this is heavy, man. So, you know, that was the end of that. And at the end of the year, I had a review from this lady. And she's so funny. I'm sitting with her and the regional manager, and I'm still getting God's favor. And God's doing all this. And she's sitting there, the regional manager's there, and she goes, Steve, she goes, you got an awesome review. She goes, you're the top sales rep in the whole district this year. And she goes, you know what? And she goes, I know you don't do those spiels when you're out on your own. She goes, but your sales are so good, I don't care. I go, yay! It was so funny because the rest of the pharmaceutical sales reps out there were wearing three-piece worsted suits, and I'm wearing a golf shirt and a pair of slacks. So I thought I was with Calvary Chapel back then. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm trying to say is when we pray about this, all of a sudden when God enters the work world, man, it gets exciting. Once you start seeing God's favor in the work world, you're going to light up because He affects everything. Not only the spiritual relationships that you're having with people that He's going to make, but the work itself. You'll be successful. That's what He's talking about here. We see an incredible ministry begin when we put God in the workplace, and that's where our light begins to shine. And what happens is people automatically want to know more about what makes us tick, and we begin to see God's favor. Listen, this happened so much on that job I was working. One year I won the top sales award for the U.S., and the top 10% of the sales reps went to the island of Barbados for a week, and we stayed at a castle there. I was just unbelievable. This is the most neatest place I've ever been. And our regional sales manager is a Christian too. And you know, when God's favor is covering you, everything happens. Everything that you don't expect to happen, happens. Well, our regional sales manager came to me when we were on that island, and she goes, Steve, she goes, you know, I know you're a Christian because her husband helped me go to Russia on a missions trip. And she goes, you know, what I'd really like to do is, she goes, I heard you lead worship, right? And I go, yeah. And she goes, well, I'm going to go rent a guitar. There's a guitar shop. There's a music shop on the island. And she goes, I'll get it Sunday morning. And she goes, would you lead worship and give us a message on Sunday morning on the beach? And I just went, yeah. I couldn't believe my regional manager was asking me to do that. That's incredible. But once we invite God into our work world, we need to expect miracles because He's all about it. He's just waiting for us to show us His wonderful favor. So how do I receive and stay in God's favor? By developing character qualities that bring on God's favor, and by understanding our responsibility to work hard and allow the Holy Spirit to come into our work world. And now we're going to look at just a few biblical examples of what happened in receiving God's favor. One of the best examples I know is Joseph in the Old Testament. Now he started out experiencing God's favor by a dream, I think, when he was about 17. Pretty sure. Genesis 37:5 tells us that then Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. They already hated him for it because he was daddy's boy. And he said to them, please listen to this dream which I've had. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf rose up erect, and behold, your sheaves gathered around, and they bowed down to my sheaf. What do you think about that? And they go, yeah, we don't think much about that. So here's a case in point where somebody experienced God's favor, but didn't have a humble attitude and lost the benefit of it. That's what happens in the church all the time. You know, God finally comes through with something outrageous where you see it's a full-on miracle and you're the recipient, and before long it goes to our heads and bam, it's gone again. It didn't last very long because we thought the favor was because of us. And it wasn't because of us at all. It was because of Him. Now, Joseph was pretty immature in his early age, but he always seemed to have had a good work ethic, like we were just talking about, that honored God. And God promises us, remember, if we do our part at work, that we're going to see his favor. And we know that Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, and he began to work for Potiphar. You remember Potiphar, who was a captain of the bodyguard. And Genesis 39:2 says, the Lord was with Joseph. So he became a successful man. Now we're talking about favor for a hardworking man. This is incredible. Whoever thought that being good at work would bring the miraculous stuff of God around? That's why this is so exciting. And it says, he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian, and now his master saw that the Lord was with him, and how the Lord caused all that he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight and became his personal servant, and he made him overseer over his whole house and over everything that he was in charge of. Now, how many people know that just because you experience God's favor doesn't mean you're not going to have any problems? Amen? Look, you can have God's favor and you can still have major problems. We know that. Joseph was doing everything right. He got humbled up and he was working hard. He was receiving God's favor, and all of a sudden, Potiphar's wife, the boss, starts hitting up on him. He can't believe it. She did it about 3 times. And, he's coming trying to do business of the day, and she's there by herself going, wow, Joseph, nobody's home. Well, if you could lie with me right now, it's all good. Potiphar doesn't get in till 6 o'clock. And Joseph goes, no, I got to go now. And he got out of Dodge. Next day, same thing happens. And this lady is persistent. Keeps hitting up on him. And again, he just goes the other way. Finally, there's a 3rd time. And I just thank God for Joseph being a strong man of God. Because this time she didn't pull any punches. She just flat out offered the bed to him. And he goes, no, how could I do this against my own boss? This could never be. And he goes, this time I'm running out of here. And he ran out, and she grabbed his cloak on the way out, and she ripped it off him and stripped him naked. And the dude ran out of her house. And she was so angry for the rejection that he gave her that day, that when he ran out of the house naked, she starts going, rape, rape, rape. And she told Potiphar that he tried to rape her. Now that happened in the middle of God's favor. So what I'm trying to tell us that, look, even though we're in the middle of God's favor, some very strong circumstances can happen to us. Can happen to us. One thing Satan wants us to forget is, when we're going through trials, God's favor is still being experienced through the trial. Sometimes we forget it, and sometimes we flat out don't believe it. But through that trial, if you will hold on to God, you're still going to experience His favor. Chapter 39, verse 21, it says, but the Lord was with Joseph and extended kindness to him and gave him favor because he was thrown in jail for a false rape charge. And here he is in jail, and he got favor in the sight of the jailer. And the chief jailer committed to Joseph's charge all the prisoners who were in the whole jail. So before it was all over, Joseph ran the jail. It's incredible. And he goes, so whatever was done here, he was responsible for it. Come on, he's supposed to be a prisoner, not the guy in charge. So in the middle of this unfair incident in prison, God not only showed Joseph favor, but he brought him back to a place where he could dream and interpret his dreams. This is how this all started with Joseph. And we know that Pharaoh had a wild dream, and Joseph was the only one that could interpret it. And when he did, Pharaoh made him ruler over all of Egypt, second to only the king. So the thing that we take away from this is, even in the worst trial that you've ever been through, if you can imagine Joseph being charged with false rape charges when that woman was trying to get him, and he went to prison. Come on, you guys. What could be worse than that? In the middle of that, he never forgot that God loved him, and God could show his favor in the middle of the worst trial, and he received God's favor. Now, you may be going through a trial right now, and maybe you feel like God has abandoned you. That's why we're on this scripture this morning. Maybe you feel like Joseph did in prison when he got attacked and slandered by Potiphar's wife. So let me encourage you, no matter where you're at this morning, God is not through with you by any way or means. He knows every hair on your head. He knows exactly what you're going through, and he's praying for you every step of the way. All you have to do is look to him by faith right now, and he's still going to show you his favor like he did Joseph in the middle of the heat. And he'll still meet you where you're at, and he'll still protect you, and he'll give you the success that you need right in the middle of your trial. Another case in point is when the children of Israel were leaving Egypt, and Pharaoh refused to let them go. You guys, the children of Israel were going through horrible trials. Just they didn't know which way to turn, to the left or to the right. Some heavy things were happening. They were in the middle of crisis for weeks. Pharaoh was refusing ever to let them go, and because of that, their workload was doubled, and they began to beat them twice as much. That's a trial. You know, and the average person and the average Jew back then was just saying, so if God is my friend, could you hold back the friendship a little bit, God? Ever since you said you were going to move, I'm getting beat twice a day instead of once. And I'm doing double the work that I did before. This is a real heavy way to see your blessing that you've promised. We know they had to gather straw for their mortar, and they were being beat by their slave masters. And in the middle of these trials, God shows them the most outrageous favor that I have ever seen in the entire Old Testament. And sometimes this incredible favor stuff happens in the middle of horrible circumstances. They were in horrible circumstances, and you know, they were ready to go. All the plagues had already happened. They'd already been beat enough. God made these promises. In Exodus 12:35, it says, now the sons of Israel had done according to the word of Moses. They got packed up, and they're ready to go. It says, for they had requested from the Egyptians articles of silver and articles of gold and clothing. So you can't really appreciate what God's telling them here unless you put yourselves in their shoes. First of all, who were the children of Israel going to be addressing? Their captors, the people that beat them. And you have to understand, this is the people that they were in slavery to. These are the people that were making their lives miserable and threatening them with their very lives. And you're going to go to these monsters that have been beating you, putting you into forced labor and threatening your life, and saying, you know, we're leaving tomorrow. And every family had to do this. Go to the local Egyptian families, knock on the door. Hi, I'm Steve, and I'm leaving tomorrow, and I need all your gold, I need all your silver, and I need all the clothes that you bought from Nordstrom's. You can keep everything else. And when God's favor happens, get out of the way. Because they all just said, half of us are dead already. What are they going to do to us now? I think their God's real. Okay, you can have all my gold. You can have all my silver. And I got all these clothes from Nordstrom's, and you can have them all. And I got a feeling that the children of Israel were sitting there going, okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then when they got about a half a block away, did you see that? Oh my God, we got all their gold, we got all their silver, we took the clothes off their back. This is amazing. It's called God's favor. And it comes at the weirdest times. It could be right in the middle of a trial. Look, we fit that mode. We've been in this dumb school 16 or 17 years. And we just said, we looked about leasing places. There's no place to lease here, man. I know. I've looked at this place till I was blue in the face. And so I quit worrying about it. I go, I don't know when we're ever going to move. I might die in this school, If I do, I hope I have a heart attack from the pulpit. At least I'll die with my boots on, And, so when we weren't looking, then God dumps it in our lap. And he gave us everything, just everything that we needed, everything. Right in the middle of a 16-year trial. It's amazing. Kind of feel like them Jews. We're the recipient of God's favor because he really loves us. This is exciting stuff, man. It happens at work when we work hard and we'll walk with God. Wow. So even in the middle of our worst trial, God will work with us. Verse 36 says, and the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians so that they let them have their request. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. Without a war, without an arrow shot, without a shot fired at all. They just said, please let me have everything. And I'm sure they said thank you when they left. It's interesting, you guys. I really believe that the stories of Robin Hood and whoever thought that up probably found it right here, where they robbed from the rich and gave to the poor. Started first right here in Exodus in the Old Testament. So how do I receive and stay in God's favor? Because, come on, you guys, we don't want this to be a one-time event. Amen? See, I don't want to move over there in that next building and stop what God started here. No matter what kind of trials will await for us there, listen, we're going to go through trials. We live in a broken, messed up world. And besides that, we're all sinners. So, the trials are going to come, but that's okay. What I don't want to lose is the kind of relationship I'm having right now, experiencing God's favor. So we got to have character qualities to bring God's favor. We get God's favor by understanding what our responsibility is at working hard. We have biblical examples of receiving God's favor. And finally, the most important thing is, when can we expect to receive God's favor? There's a time element here. So the timing of God's favor, that's his own doing. And it's done in his own way. But the Word does tell us something about the timing and God's favor. The incredible thing about God's favor is we're going to see that the Word of God says his favor never ends. So that is really good news. I'm so happy about it. I don't want this to be a one-time shot. I want to get a grip on God and a grip on his grace and a grip on his favor and walk with this for the rest of my life. And I want us all to as a church. So let's remember that even though we may be experiencing God's favor, we still go through trials, but God will show us favor as we go through those trials. And we don't need anyone to tell us that there are things that can block God's favor. And it's simply called the sin that we so easily tangle ourselves in. Simply put, God can't or he won't show us favor when we're in rebellion to him. That makes sense, right? You're not going to experience God's favor if you're in rebellion, you got sin in your life, you got your fingers crossed around your back, but he sees them. And so he can't do it. Proverbs 3:11 says, my son, don't despise the chastening of the Lord, nor detest his correction, for whom the Lord loves, he corrects, just as the Father, the Son, in whom he delights. So we all come to the point where God disciplines us. Amen? Yeah. We've all been disciplined by the Lord before. So we may be suffering for a time because of our actions in our rebellion. That happens in life, and God will respond to us. But the purpose of God's discipline isn't for us to pay for our rebellion, because that's what we think. We start experiencing discipline from the Lord. In other words, things start going really bad. And we know all of a sudden when things start going really bad, oh man, I already know what I've been doing, and now I'm getting all this blowback from it, and we just think that God's getting even with us. He is not getting even with us. He got even with us at the cross. And He paid for our rebellion. So there's a different reason for disciplining us. This is interesting. God's philosophy isn't, if you're going to do the crime, you need to be willing to do the time. No, that is not God's philosophy. God brings that discipline in our lives simply to guide us back to Him. It's the only reason. But He does. And you know what? When He does, you guys, it's actually a sign that you're really saved. You know, sometimes we worry about when we're being disciplined by the Lord, that like, oh man, I wonder if I'm saved. This stuff is like pretty bad, man. I'm just feeling the wrath of God right now. And when in reality, that's a total sign that you got the Holy Spirit in your heart, and Jesus Christ is working with your life, and He's bringing you back into the corral again. Many times we watch TV and we see people on the news getting away with murder. I don't know if you guys saw this last week. Now, there was a cop that had stopped a black man in his car, and he was giving him a ticket, and the guy decided that he didn't want to stick around. I think he had a warrant out for his arrest, so he ran away. Now, he wasn't armed or anything, and the cop shot him 5 or 7 times in the back. So you just go, whoa. And so when he was asked, why did you do that? He said, well, when I took it out and shot him, I forgot. I thought it was my taser. And I'm going, oh, really? After you shot him 7 times and you thought it was your taser? That's stupid. How could you even say that? It's so bad. And, you know, we look at our own lives and we don't get away with anything. You know, we see people getting away with murder out there, but when it comes to us who know Jesus, man, we get slapped down. And we just wonder, man, why am I so unlucky? And these stupid non-believers, they're out there getting away with murder because they don't have God's favor. Part of God's favor is roping you like a sheep and bringing you back into the corral so you don't get killed out there. End up really hurt bad somewhere. So we don't get away with it. And the whole purpose of discipline is to bring us back under God's favor. It's to bring us to our senses where we discover that we've been blowing it. And now remember, this is for believers. So as we've suffered through the discipline of the Lord, we're still in good standings with God because of what Jesus did on the cross. And that's what I don't want anybody to forget this morning. No matter what kind of discipline that you've been through, maybe you've been through some recently. I don't want you to forget. The only reason you got disciplined was just to bring you back. Because He's got a blessing for you. That's who our God is. He's not out to whack you. He's out to bless you. Because He's really a good dad. He really loves you. He really knows you. And He really loves you. Now we know that David was a believer, but just listen to how he describes how God rescued him from himself. Psalm 33, he says, "O Lord, you brought my soul up from the grave, and you've kept me alive, that I should not go down to the pit." In other words, to hell. That's what the pit means. So sing praise to the Lord, you saints of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holy name. So maybe you're here this morning, and maybe you've been feeling the heavy hand of God's discipline on you. And God has a message for you this morning. Here's what his message is, if you've been going through it. All he's saying is, it's over. Look, the discipline is over. It was just for a short time. You got to understand, all I wanted to do, this is God speaking, all I wanted to do was just get you back so I could bless you again. It's the only reason that I had to do this. I want to use you again. God's with us this morning, and he's saying, come on, let's get back together. Let's forget about what happened, and let's change the world together. I want to power you up through the Holy Spirit. I want to do mighty things through you again. It's why I've created you. That discipline, it was just for a short moment. Verse 5 goes on in the passage we're looking at. It says, for his anger is but for a moment. It reminds me when I had to discipline my son. I would spank my son, and I know the spankings hurt. It's what spankings are supposed to do. Now, I didn't abuse the kid, but I did make sure that it hurt, or why would I give a spanking? But when the spanking was over, I would always take my son and hug him. His name is Stevie. I would hug Stevie, and I would put him on my knee. And I would reassure him. I'd say, hey, Stevie, this is over with. I'm not mad at you anymore. I so want you to know that. So we're good. You know, we really are. I really love you. And I'm just so glad that, you know, we're just together again. And you know what? Let's just forget about this. And I always know that my son would respond to that. He always did. And he'd go, oh, okay. Look down kind of sheepishly and go, thanks, Dad. He would thank me for the spanking. It was so crazy, man. My son liked to be disciplined. No, it's hard to believe, isn't it? But my son's the kind of kid that couldn't live with the guilt. It's just not in him. And so I'll never forget, one day he came to me, and I used to spank him with, it was a little paddle that used to have a little ball and a string on it. You know what I'm talking about? Paddle ball. They work great for spanking things. So he brings me the paddle. And he goes, Dad, he goes, I need a spanking. He did. You could ask my wife. And I go, well, what for? I can't even remember what he said, but he told me what it's for. Well, his repentance so got to me, I wouldn't have spanked him for $1 million. And I go, you know what, Stevie, not today, man. I go, let's pray. You know, because you're not going to get a spanking today. That's how God is with us. The discipline is just for a short time. That's what God's trying to communicate for us. So whoever's here, whoever's been going through it, whatever it is, don't worry. The only reason it happened was just for a short little experience. It was only to bring you back to the place of blessing. This is why verse 5 said, come on, his anger is just for a moment. But it says, his favor is for life. And that's the most important verse we're looking at all morning this morning. I'm so happy about that. I'm going to be under God's favor for the rest of my life. I don't care if the world goes to hell in a handbasket. I'm not. Because I'm going to experience God's favor for good. So, if you've been going through it, I want to assure you that God never left you in the middle of your trial. He's not going to forget you. He's just saying, come on home. Come on home. Let's do this over again. It's all good. I've already forgiven you. Look, that guilt is as far as the east is from the west. I used to try and tell my kids how much I loved them, and it was this much. I can't stretch my arms out any farther, and that's what God's telling us this morning, that I love you so much. I gave up my life for you, so of course it's over. Let's forget about the past. No wonder he said, come to me, all you who are weary of trying to work this life out in your own stuff, and you're heavy laden. You're the one I want. Come to me, because I'm going to give you rest from everything stressful in your life, and I'm going to clean that guilty conscience. And you know what? Let's just forget about it. Come back to me and let me show you how I can bless you. That's God's message to us, and that's his message about him showing us favor. That's why verse 5 says, look, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. This discipline that he gave us was just for a short time, and now it's time to come back and celebrate. God was speaking to the prophet Jeremiah to try and explain this. And, no matter what kind of sin we've been through, God wants to communicate this to us this morning. He says, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you can call upon me and go and pray to me, and I'm going to listen to you. You're not alienated from me. Are you kidding me? I love you so much. I went to the cross for you. I'm ready to stand with you no matter what you've done. You're good with me. I've already forgiven you. You'll seek me, he says, and you'll find me when you search me with all of your heart. No wonder Paul wrote in Philippians 4:19 and said, and my God shall supply all your need according to the riches in glory of Christ Jesus. Isaiah 54:7 says, for a mere moment I have forsaken you. That's what we've been trying to talk about. It's only for just a little short time. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to get your attention to come back. For a mere moment I have forsaken you. But with great mercies I'll gather you. With a little wrath I hid my face from you for just a moment. But with everlasting kindness I'll have mercy on you, says the Lord your Redeemer. Can you give God a hand this morning for that? It's worth praising God for. Oh, even in Lamentations, the author says, through the Lord's mercies we're not consumed, because his compassions, they fail not. They're new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Psalm 59:16 says, but I'll sing of your power. Yes, I'll sing aloud of your mercy in the morning, for you've been my defense and refuge in my day of trouble. Because he loves us, and he's ready to be our protector. David writes in Psalm 143:8 and says, cause me to hear your loving kindness in the morning, for in you do I trust. Cause me to know the way in which I should walk, for I lift my soul to you. Do you hear the surrender in David's voice there? It's worth it, because at the end of that surrender is God ready to bless us with love that we can't imagine and favor. All this to say, he's communicating to us this morning, come back home. My favor for you is never ended, and it's never going to end. God has shown this church more favor in the last 3 weeks than I've seen in the history of the church. And the good news is, it's never going to end. One of the reasons I wanted to do this message, I was so caught up in what I was seeing that I was wondering what the Word said about how long this is going to last, because I didn't want to let go. And what God assured me that I needed to communicate this morning, as we move and we leave this building today for the last time, and we go to our new building, as we go, we don't want to take with us any negative connotations that could have happened while we were ministering here. You know, things like, well, it took us 17 years and we never really grew for like 17 years. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And God's saying, now as we make this move, don't take those doubts with you. Because what I've started here, I'm going to show you blessings that you've never seen before over there. Because the provision of the building is only the beginning. And if you'll honor me, and you'll work hard, and you'll live a righteous life by faith, because that's what we're talking about, not good works, but by faith. Listen, you guys, we're going to end up with triple services over there. Don't doubt God. He's shown us the miraculous and how He's given us everything that we needed. But this is only the beginning. Let's pray.